Candida by George Bernard Shaw.
A fine October morning in the northeast suburbs of London, a vast district many miles away from the London of Mayfair and St. James's, much less known there than the Paris of Rue des Violes and the Champs-Élysées, and much less narrow, squalid, fetid, and airless in its slums. Strong and comfortable, prosperous middle-class life, wide street, myriad populated, well served with ugly iron urinals, radical clubs, tram lines, and a perpetual stream of yellow cars, enjoying in its main thoroughfares the luxury of grass-grown front gardens, untrodden by the foot of man save as to the path from the gate to the hall door, but blighted by an intolerable monotony of miles and miles of graceless, characterless brick houses, black iron railings, stony pavements, slaty roofs, and respectably ill-dressed or disreputably poorly dressed people, quite accustomed to the place and mostly plodding about someone else's work, which they would not do if they themselves could help it. The little energy and eagerness that crop up show themselves in cockney cupidity and business push. Even the policemen and the chapels are not infrequent enough to break the monotony. The sun is shining cheerfully. There is no fog, and though the smoke effectually prevents anything, weather faces and hands or bricks and mortar from looking fresh and clean, it is not hanging heavily enough to trouble a Londoner.
This desert of unattractiveness has its oasis. Near the outer edge of the Hackney Road is a park of 217 acres, fenced in, not by railings, but by a wooden paling, and containing plenty of greenwoods, trees, a lake for bathers, flower beds with the flowers arranged carefully in patterns by the admired Cockney art of carpet gardening and a sand pit. Imported from the seaside for the delight of the children, but speedily deserted on its becoming a natural vermin preserve for all the petty fauna of Kingsland, Hackney, and Hockton. A bandstand, an unfinished forum for religious, anti-religious, and political orators, cricket pitches, a gymnasium, and an old-fashioned stone kiosk are among its attractions. Wherever the prospect is bounded by trees or rising green grounds, it is a pleasant place. Where the ground stretches far to the gray palings, with the bricks and mortar, sky signs, crowded chimneys, and smoke beyond, the prospect makes it desolate and sordid.
The best view of Victoria Park is from the front windows of St. Dominic's Parsonage, from which not a single chimney is visible. The parsonage is a semi-detached villa with a front garden and a porch. Visitors go up the flight of steps to the porch. Tradespeople and members of the family go down by a door under the steps to the basement, the breakfast room used for all meals in front, and a kitchen at the back. Upstairs on the level of the hall door is the drawing room, with its large plate glass window looking on the park. In this room, the only sitting room that can be spared from the children and the family meals. The parson, the Reverend James Mavor Morell, does his work. He is sitting in a strong, round-backed revolving chair at the right-hand end of a long table, which stands across the window, so that he can cheer himself with the view of the park at his elbow. At the opposite end of the table, adjoining it, is a little table, only half the width of the other, with a typewriter on it. His typist is sitting at this machine, with her back to the window. The large table is littered with pamphlets, journals, letters, nests of drawers, an office diary, postage scales, and the like. A spare chair for visitors having business with the parson is in the middle, turned to the end. turned to his end.
Within reach of his hand is a stationery case and a cabinet photograph in a frame. Behind him, the right-hand wall, recessed above the fireplace, is fitted with bookshelves on which an adept eye can measure the person's divinity and casuistry by a complete set of Browning's poem and Morris's theological essays, and guess at his politics from a yellow-backed Progress and Poverty, Fabian Essays, A Dream of John Ball, Marx's Capital, and half a dozen other literary landmarks in socialism. Opposite him on the left, near the typewriter, is the door. Further down the room, opposite the fireplace, a bookcase stands on a cellarette with a sofa near it. There is a generous fire burning, and the hearth, with a comfortable armchair and a japanned flower-painted coal scuttle at one side, a miniature chair for a boy or girl on the other, a nicely varnished wooden mantelpiece with neatly molded shelves, tiny bits of mirror let into the panels, and a traveling clock in a leather case. Inevitable wedding present, and on the wall, above a large autotype of the chief figure in Titian's Virgin of the Assumption, is very inviting. Altogether, the room is the room of a good housekeeper, vanquished, as far as the table is concerned, by an untidy man, but elsewhere, mistress of the situation. The furniture, in its ornamented aspect, betrays the style of the advertised drawing room suite of the pushing suburban furniture dealer. But there is nothing useless or pretentious in the room. The paper and paneling are dark, throwing the big cherry window and the park outside into strong relief.
The Reverend James Mavor Morell is a Christian socialist clergyman of the Church of England and an active member of the Guild of St. Matthew and the Christian Social Union. A vigorous, genial, popular man of 40, robust and good-looking, very good-looking, full of energy, with pleasant, hearty, considerate manners, and a sound, unaffected voice, which he uses with the clean, athletic articulation of a practiced orator and with a wide range and perfect command of expression. He is a first-rate clergyman, able to say what he likes to whom he likes, and to lecture people without setting himself up against them, to impose his authority on them without humiliating them, and to interfere in their business without impertinence. His wellspring of spiritual enthusiasm and sympathetic emotion has never run dry for a moment. He still eats and sleeps heartily enough to win the daily battle between exhaustion and recuperation triumphantly. Withal, a great baby, bottomly vain of his powers and unconsciously pleased with himself. He has a healthy complexion, a good forehead, with the brows somewhat blunt and the eyes bright and eager, a mouth resolute, but not particularly well cut, and a substantial nose, with the mobile spreading nostrils of a dramatic orator, but, like all his features, void of subtlety.
The typist, Miss Proserpine Garnett, is a brisk little woman of about 30, of the lower middle class, neatly but cheaply dressed in a black merino skirt and a blouse, rather pert and quick of speech, and not very civil in her manner, but sensitive and affectionate. She is clattering away busily at her machine, whilst Morell opens the last of his morning's letters. He realizes its contents with a comic groan of despair.
Another lecture?
Yes, the Hawksman Freedom Group want me to address them on Sunday morning. What are they?
Communist anarchists, I think.
Just like anarchists not to know that they can't have a parson on Sunday. Tell them to come to the church if they want to hear me. It would do them good. Say I can only come on Mondays and Thursdays. Have you the diary there?
Yes.
Have I any lecture for next Monday?
Tower Hamlets, Radical Club.
Well, Thursday, then.
English Land Restoration League.
What next?
Guild of St. Matthews on Monday, Independent Labour Party, Greenwich Branch on Thursday, Monday, Social Democratic Federation, Mile End Branch, and Thursday, First Confirmation Class. I'd better tell them that you cannot come. There are only half a dozen ignorant and conceited costermongers without 5 shillings between them.
But you see, they are near relatives of mine, Miss Garnett.
Relatives of yours?
Yes, we have the same father in heaven.
Oh, is that all?
You don't believe it. Everybody says it. Nobody believes it. Nobody. Well, come, Miss Proserpine. Can't you find a date for the Costers? What about the 25th? That was vacant the day before yesterday.
Engaged. The Fabian Society.
Bother the Fabian Society. Is the 28th going to?
Mm-hmm. City dinner. You're invited to dine with the founders' company.
That'll do. I'll go to the Hoxton Group of Freedom instead. Well, Lexy, late again as usual.
I'm afraid so. I wish I could get up in the morning.
Ha ha! Watch and pray, Lexy. Watch and pray.
I know. But how can I watch and play when I am asleep? Isn't that so, Miss Prosy?
Miss Garnett, if you please.
I beg your pardon, Miss Garnett.
You've got to do all the work today.
Why?
Never mind why. It will do you good to earn your supper before you eat it, for once in any way, as I do. Come, don't dawdle. You should have been off your rounds half an hour ago.
Is she in earnest, Morell?
Yes, I am going to dawdle today.
You? You don't know how.
Don't I? I'm going to have this day all to myself, or at least the forenoon. My wife's coming back. She's due here at 11:45.
Coming back already? With the children? I thought they were to stay to the end of the month.
So they are. She's only coming up for 2 days to get some flannel things for Jimmy and to see how we're getting on without her.
But my dear Morell, if what Jimmy and Fluffy had was scarlatina, do you think it wise?
Scarlatina? Rubbish. German measles. I brought it into the house myself from the Pycroft Street School. A parson is like a doctor, my boy. He must face infection as a soldier must face bullets. Catch the measles if you can, Lexy. She'll nurse you. What a piece of luck it would be for you, eh?
It's so hard to understand you about Mrs. Morell.
Ah, my boy. Get married to a good woman, and then you'll understand. That's a foretaste of what will be the best in the kingdom of heaven. We are trying to establish on earth. That will cure you of dawdling. An honest man feels that he must pay heaven for every hour of happiness with a good spell of hard, unselfish work to make others happy. We have no more right to consume happiness without producing it than to consume wealth without producing it. Get a wife like Candida, and you'll always be in arrear with your repayment.
Oh, wait a bit, I forgot. Your father-in-law is coming round to see you.
Mr. Burgess?
Yes, I passed him in the park, arguing with somebody. He gave me good day and asked me to let you know that he was coming.
But he hasn't called here for, I may almost say for years. Are you sure, Lexy? You're not joking, are you?
No, sir, really.
Time for him to take another look at Candida before she grows out of knowledge.
What a good man. What a thorough, loving soul he is.
Oh, a man ought to be able to be fond of his wife without making a fool of himself about her.
Oh, Miss Prosy.
Candida here, Candida there, and Candida everywhere. It's enough to drive one out of their senses. To hear a perfectly commonplace woman raved about in that absurd manner merely because she's got good hair and a tolerable figure.
I think her extremely beautiful, Miss Garnett. Extremely beautiful. How fine her eyes are.
Her eyes are not a bit better than mine now. Oh, and you know very well that you think me dowdy and second-rate enough.
Heaven forbid that I should think of any of God's creatures in such a way.
Thank you. That's very nice and comforting.
I had no idea that you had any feeling against Mrs. Morell.
I have no feeling against her. She's very nice, very good-hearted. I'm very fond of her and can appreciate her real qualities far better than any man can. Oh, you don't believe me? You think I'm jealous? Oh, what a profound knowledge of the human heart you have, Mr. Lexy Mill. How well you know the weakness of woman, don't you? It must be so nice to be a man and have fine, penetrating intellect instead of mere emotions like us, and to know that the reason that we do not share your amorous delusions is that we're all jealous of one another.
You women only have the same clue to man's strength that you have to his weakness, Miss Prosy. There would be no woman question.
Where did you hear Morell say that? You didn't invent it yourself. You're not clever enough.
That's quite true. I am not ashamed of owing him that, as I owe him so many other spiritual truths. He said it at the annual conference of the Women's Liberal Federation. Allow me to add that though they didn't appreciate it, I, a mere man, did.
Well, when you talk to me, give me your own ideas, such as they are, and not his. You never cut a proper figure than when you're trying to imitate him.
I try to follow his example, not to imitate him.
Yes, you do. You imitate him. Why do you tuck your umbrella under your left arm instead of carrying it in your hand like anyone else? Why do you walk with your chin stuck out before you, hurrying along with that eager look in your eyes? You who never get up before 9:30 in the morning? Or why do you say knowledge in church, though you always say knowledge in private conversation? Bah, do you think I don't know? Here, come and set about your work. We've wasted enough time for one morning. Here's the copy of the diary for today.
Thank you.
They told me Mr. Morell was here. Hello. They told me Mr. Morell was here. I can't hear you. They told me Mr. Morell was here.
He's upstairs. I'll fetch him for you. Sorry.
Well, you're not the same young lady as used to typewrite for him.
No.
No, she was younger. Starting on your rounds, Mr. Mill?
Yes, I must be off presently.
Oh, don't let me detain you, Mr. Mill. What I come about is private between me and Mr. Morell.
I have no intention of intruding, I am sure, Mr. Burgess. Good morning.
Oh, good morning to you.
Off to work.
Yes, sir.
Well, take my silk handkerchief and wrap your throat. There's a cold wind. Away with you.
Spoiling your curates as usual, James. Good morning. When I pay a man and as his living depends on me, I keep him in his place.
I always keep my curates in their places as my helpers and comrades. If you get as much work out of your clerks and warehousemen as I do out of my curates, you must be getting rich pretty fast. Will you take your old chair?
Just the same as ever, James.
When you last called, it was about 3 years ago, I think. You said the same thing, a little more frankly. Your exact words then were, just as big a fool as ever, James.
Well, perhaps I did, but I meant no offence by it. A clergyman is privileged to be a bit of a fool, you know. It's only becoming in his profession that he should. Anyhow, I come here not to rake up old differences, but to let bygones be bygones. James, 3 years ago you done me ill turn. You done me out of a contract, and when I give you harsh words in my natural disappointment, you turn me daughter again me. Well, I've come to act the part of a Christian. I forgive you, James.
Confound your impudence.
Is that becoming language for a clergyman, James? And you so particular, too.
No, sir. It is not becoming language for a clergyman. I used the wrong word. I should have said, damn your impudence. That's what St. Paul or any honest priest would have said to you. Do you think I have forgotten that tender of yours for the contract to supply clothing to the workhouse?
Well, I acted in the interest of the ratepayers, James. It was the lowest tender. You can't deny that.
Yes, the lowest, because you pay worse wages than any other employer. Starvation wages. Worse than starvation wages to the women who made the clothing. Your wages would have driven them to the streets to keep body and soul together. I mean, those women were my parishioners. I shamed the guardians out of accepting your tender. I shamed the ratepayers out of letting them to do it. I shamed everybody but you. How dare you, sir, come here to offer to forgive me and talk about your daughter and...
Easy, James. Easy. Don't get into a fluster about nothing. I've owned I was wrong.
Have you? I didn't hear you.
Of course I did. I owned it now. Come, I ask your pardon for the letter I wrote you. Is that enough?
That's nothing. Have you raised the wages?
Yes.
What?
I've turned a model employer. I don't employ no women now. They're all sacked, and the work is done by machinery. Not a man is less than 6 pence an hour, and the skilled hands gets the trade union rate. What have you to say to me now?
Is it possible? Well, there's more joy in heaven over one sinner that repenteth. My dear Burgess, I must heartily beg your pardon for my hard thoughts of you. And now, don't you feel better for the change? Come, confess you're happier. You look happier.
Well, perhaps I do. I suppose I must, since you notice it. At all events, I get my contract accepted by the county council. Oh, they doesn't have nothing to do with me unless I pay fair wages. I'll curse them for a parcel of meddling fools.
So, that was why you raised the wages.
Well, why else should I do it? What does it lead to but drunk and uppishness in working men? It's all very well for you, James. It gets you into the papers and makes a great man of you. But you never think of the harm you do putting money into the pockets of working men that they don't know how to spend, and taking it from people that might be making a good use on it.
What is your business with me this morning? I shall not pretend to believe that you're here merely out of family sentiment.
Oh, yes, I am. Just family sentiment and nothing else.
I don't believe you.
Don't say that to me again, James Mavor Morell.
I'll say it just as often as may be necessary to convince you that it's true. I don't believe you.
Oh, well, if you're determined to be unfriendly, I suppose I'd better go. I didn't expect to find an unforgiving spirit in you, James. We used to get on well enough, spite our different opinions. Why are you so changed to me? I give you my word, I come here in pure friendliness, not wishing to be on bad terms with my own daughter's husband. Come, James, be a Christian and shake hands.
Look here, Burgess. Do you want to be as welcome here as you were before you lost the contract?
I do, James, I do. Honest.
Then why don't you behave as you do then? As you did then?
How do you mean?
I'll tell you. You thought me a young fool then.
No, I didn't, James.
Yes, you did. And I thought you an old scoundrel.
No, you didn't, James. Now you do yourself an injustice.
Yes, I did. Well, that did not prevent our getting on with very well together. God made you what I call a scoundrel, as he made what you call a fool. It was not for me to quarrel with his handiwork in the one case more than in the other. So long as you come here honestly, as a self-respecting, thorough, convinced scoundrel, justifying your scoundrelism and proud of it, you are welcome. But I won't have you here sniveling about being a model employer and a converted man when you're only an apostate with your coat turned for the sake of a county council contract. No, I like a man to be true to himself, even in wickedness. Come now, either take your hat and go, or sit down and give me a good scoundrelly reason for wanting to be friends with me. That's right. Now, out with it.
Well, you are a queer bird, James, and no mistake. But one can't help liking you, because, as I said afore, of course one don't take all the clergyman says seriously, or the world couldn't go on, could it now? Well, I don't mind telling you, since it's your wish we should be free with one another, that I did think you a bit of a fool once, but I'm beginning to think that perhaps I was behind the times a bit.
Aha, you're finding out at last, are you?
Yes, times has changed more than I could have believed. 5 years ago, no sensible man would have thought to taken up with your ideas. I used to wonder you was let to preach at all. Why, I know the clergyman that has been kept out of his job for yours by the Bishop of London, although the poor fellow not a bit more religious than you are. But today, Anyone was to offer to bet me £1,000 that you'll end up by being a bishop yourself, I shouldn't venture to take the bet. You and your crew are getting influential. I can see that. You'll have to give you something someday, if it's only to stop your mouth. And at the right instinct, after all, James, the line you took is the paying line in the long run for a man of your sort.
Shake hands, Burgess. Now, you're talking honestly. I don't think they'll make me a bishop, but if they do, I'll introduce you as the biggest jobbers I can get to come to my dinner parties.
You will have your joke, James. One quarrel's made up now, isn't it?
Say yes, James. Say yes.
Candida, why? My darling, I intended to meet you at the train. I let time slip. I was so engrossed by. I forgot.
How are you, Candy? James and me has come to an understanding, an honourable understanding. Ain't we, James?
Oh, bother your understanding. Man, you've kept me late, Candida. My poor love, how did you manage about the luggage? How?
Oh, there. I wasn't alone. Eugene came down yesterday and we travelled up together.
Eugene?
Yes, he's struggling with my luggage, poor boy. Go out, dear, at once, or he will pay for the cab, and I don't want that. Oh, well. Well, Papa, how are you getting on at home?
The house ain't worth living in since you left, Candy. I wish you'd come around and give the girl a talking to. Who's this Eugene that's coming with you?
Oh, Eugene's one of James's discoveries. He found him sleeping on the embankment last June. Haven't you noticed our new picture? He gave us that.
Gone. D'you mean to tell me your own father, that cab louts or such like off the embankment, buys pictures like that? Don't deceive me, Candy. It's a high church picture, and James chose it himself.
Guess again, Eugene isn't a cab tout.
Then what is he? A nobleman, I suppose?
Yes, his uncle's a peer, a real live earl.
No.
Yes! He had a 7-day bill for £55 in his pocket when James found him on the embankment. He thought he couldn't get any money for it until the 7 days were up, and he was too shy to ask for credit. Oh, he's a dear boy. We are very fond of him.
I thought you wouldn't get a Piers Nevy visiting Victoria Park unless he were a bit of a flat. Of course, I don't hold with that picture, Candy, but still, it's a high-class, first-rate work of art. I can see that. But sure you introduce me to him, Candy. I can only stay about 2 minutes.
Come along. You can spare a quarter of an hour at all events. This is my father-in-law, Mr. Burgess, Mr. Marchbanks.
Glad to meet you, sir.
Oh, glad to meet you, I'm sure, Mr. Marchbanks. How do you find yourself this weather? I hope you ain't letting James put no foolish ideas into your head.
Foolish ideas? Oh, you mean socialism? No.
Oh, that's right. Well, I must go now. There's no help for it. You're not coming my way, are you, Mr. Marchbanks?
Which way is that?
Victoria Park Station. There's a city train at 12:25.
Nonsense. Eugene will stay to lunch with us, I expect.
No, I
Oh, well, I shan't press you. I bet you'd rather lunch with Candy. Some night I hope you'll come and dine with me at my club, the Freeman Founders in Norton Falgate. Okay, come say you will.
thank you, Mr. Burgess. Where is Norton Folgate? Down in Surrey, isn't it?
You'll lose your train, Papa, if you don't go at once. Come back in the afternoon and tell Mr. Marchbanks where to find the club.
Down in Surrey? That's not a bad one. Well, I never met a man as didn't know Norton Folgate before. Goodbye, Mr. Marchbanks. I know you're too high bred to take my pleasantry in bad part.
Not at all.
Bye-bye, Candy. I'll look in again later on. So long, James.
Must you go?
Don't stir.
Oh, I'll see you out.
Well, Eugene, what do you think of my father?
I hardly know him yet. He seems to be a very nice old gentleman.
And you'll go to the Freeman Founders to dine with him, won't you?
Yes, if it will please you.
Do you know, you are a very nice boy, Eugene, with all your queerness. If you had laughed at my father, I shouldn't have minded. But I like you ever so much better for being so nice to him.
Ought I to have laughed? Laughed? I noticed that he said something funny, but I am so ill at ease with strangers, and I can never see a joke. I'm very sorry.
Oh, come, you great baby, you. Oh, you are worse than usual this morning. Why were you so melancholy as we came along in the cab?
Oh, that was nothing. I was wondering how much I ought to give the cabman. I know it's utterly silly, but you don't know how dreadful such things are to me. How I shrink from having to deal with strange people.
Oh,
But it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. He beamed all over and touched his hat when Morell gave him 2 shillings. I was on the point of offering him 10.
Oh, James dear, he was going to give the cabman 10 shillings. 10 shillings for a 3 minutes drive. Oh dear.
Never mind her, Marchbanks. The overpaying instinct is a generous one, better than the underpaying instinct, and not so common.
No, cowardice, incompetence. Mrs. Morell's quite right.
Of course she is. And now I must leave you to James for the present. I suppose you are too much of a poet to know the state a woman finds her house in when she's been away for 3 weeks. Give me my rug. Now, hang my cloak across my arm. Now my hat. Now open the door for me. Thanks.
You'll stay to lunch, Marchbanks, of course.
I mustn't. I can't.
You mean you won't?
No. I should like to, indeed. Thank you very much. But,
Bosh, if you'd like to stay, stay. You don't mean to persuade me you have anything else to do. If you're shy, go and take a turn in the park and write poetry until 1:30. Then come in and have a good feed.
thank you. I should like that very much. But I really mustn't. The truth is, Mrs. Morell told me not to. Not to. She said she didn't think you'd ask me to stay to lunch, but that I was to remember, if you did, that you didn't really want me to. She said I'd understand, but I don't. Please don't tell her I told you.
Oh, is that all? Want my suggestion that you should take a turn in the park, meet the difficulty?
How?
Ah, you duffer. No, I won't put it in that way. My dear lad, in a happy marriage like ours, there's something very sacred in the return of the wife to her home. An old friend or a truly noble and sympathetic soul is not in that way on such occasions, but a chance visitor is. Candida thought I would rather not have you here, but she was wrong. I'm very fond of you, my boy, and I should like for you to see for yourself what a happy thing it is to be married, as I am.
Happy? Your marriage? You think that? You believe that?
I know it is, my lad. La Rochefoucauld said there are convenient marriages, but no delightful ones. Now, you don't know the comfort of seeing through and through a thundering liar and a rotten cynic like that fellow. Now, off with you to the park and write your poem. 1:30, sharp mind. We never wait for anybody.
No, stop. You shan't. I'll force it into the light.
Eh? Force what?
I must speak to you. There is something that must be settled between us.
Now?
Now, before you leave this room.
Look, I'm not going to leave it, my dear boy. I thought you were. Come, sit down quietly and tell me what it is. And remember, we are friends and need not fear that either of us will be anything but patient and kind to the other, whatever we may have to say.
Oh, I am not forgetting myself. I am only full of horror. You shall see whether this is a time for patience and kindness. Don't look at me in that self-complacent way. In that self-complacent way. You think yourself stronger than I am, but I shall stagger you if you have a heart in your breast.
Stagger me? My boy, out with it.
First, I love your wife.
Why, my dear child, of course you do. Everybody loves her. They can't help it. And I like it. But I say, Eugene, do you think yours is a case to be talked about? You're under 20. She's over 30. Doesn't it look rather too like a case of calf love?
You dare say that of her? You think that way of the love she inspires? It is an insult to her.
To her? Eugene, take care. Now, I've been patient, and I hope to remain patient. But there are some things that I won't allow. And don't force me to show you the indulgence I show to a child. Be a man.
Oh, let us put aside all that cant. It horrifies me when I think of the doses of it she has had to endure in all the weary years during which you have selfishly and blindly sacrificed her to minister to your self-sufficiency. You, who have not one thought, one sense in common with her.
But she seems to bear pretty well. Eugene, my boy, You are making a fool of yourself, a very great fool of yourself. That's a piece of wholesome, plain speaking for you.
Oh, do you think I don't know all that? Do you think that the things people make fools of themselves about are any less real and true than the things they behave sensibly about? They are more true. They are the only things that are true. You are very calm and sensible and moderate with me, because you can see that I am a fool about your wife. Just as no doubt that old man who was here just now is very wise over your socialism, because he sees that you are a fool about it. Does that prove you wrong? Does your complacent superiority to me prove that I am wrong?
Marchbanks, some devil is putting these words into your mouth. It is easy, terribly easy, to shake a man's faith in himself. To take advantage of that to break a man's spirit is devil's work. Take care of what you're doing. Take care.
I know. I'm doing it on purpose. I told you I should stagger you.
Eugene, listen to me. And someday, I hope and trust, you will be a happy man like me. You will be married, and you will be working with all your might and valor to make every spot on earth as happy as your own home. You will be one of the makers of the kingdom of heaven on earth. And who knows, you may be a pioneer and master builder where I am only a humble journeyman. For don't think, my boy, that I cannot see in you. Young as you are, promise of higher powers than I can ever pretend to. I well know that it is the poet that the Holy Spirit of man, the God within him, is most godlike. I mean, it should make you terrible to think of that. To think that the heavy burden and great gift of a poet may be laid upon you.
It does not make me tremble. It is the want of it in others that makes me tremble.
And help to kindle it in them, in me, not to extinguish it. In the future, when you are as happy as I am, I will be the true brother in faith. I mean, I will help you to believe that God has given us a world that nothing but our own folly keeps from being a paradise. I will help you to believe that every stroke of your work is sowing happiness for the great harvest that all, even humblest, shall one day reap. And last, but trust me, not least, I will help you to believe that your wife loves you and happy in her home. I mean, we need such help, Marchbanks. We need it greatly and always. There are so many things that make us doubt if once we let our understanding be troubled. Even at home, we sit as if in camp, encompassed by a hostile army of doubts. Now, will you play the traitor and let them turn in on me?
Is it like this for her here always? For her here always? A woman with a great soul, craving for reality, truth, freedom, and being fed on metaphors, sermons, stale perorations, mere rhetoric. Do you think a woman's soul can live on your talent for preaching
Marchbanks. You make it hard for me to control myself. My talent is like yours insofar as it has any real worth at all. It is the gift of finding words for divine truth.
It's the gift of the gab. Nothing more and nothing less. What has your knack of fine talking to do with the truth any more than playing the organ has? I've never been in your church, but I've been to your political meetings. And I've seen you do what's called rousing the meeting to enthusiasm. That is, you excited them until they behaved exactly as if they were drunk. And their wives looked on and saw clearly enough, what fools they were. Oh, it's an old story. You'll find it in the Bible. I imagine King David, in his fits of enthusiasm, was very like you. But his wife despised him in her heart.
Leave my house. Do you hear?
Let me alone. Don't touch me! Stop, Morell! If you strike me, I'll kill myself. I won't bear it. Let me go! Take your hand away!
You little sniveling, cowardly whelp. Go before you frighten yourself into a fit.
I'm not afraid of you. It's you who are afraid of me.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. You think because I shrink from being brutally handled, because I can do nothing but cry with rage when I am met with violence? Because I can't fight you for your wife as a navvy would. All that makes you think that I'm afraid of you. But you're wrong. If I haven't got what you call British pluck, I haven't British cowardice either. I'm not afraid of a clergyman's ideas. I'll fight your ideas. I'll rescue her from slavery to them. I'll pit my own ideas against them. You're driving me out of the house because you daren't let her choose between your ideas and mine. You are afraid to let me see her again. Let me alone. I say I'm going.
Wait a minute. Now, I'm not going to touch you. Don't be afraid. When my wife comes back, she will want to know why you've gone. And when she finds that you are never going to cross our threshold again, she will want to have that explained to too. Now, I don't want to wish to distress her by telling her that you have behaved like a blackguard.
You shall. You must. If you give any explanation but the true one, you are a liar and a coward. Tell her what I said, and how you were strong and manly, and shook me as a terrier shakes a rat, and how I shrank and was terrified, and how you called me a sniveling little whelp and put me out of the house. If you don't tell her, I will. I'll write to her.
Why do you want her to know this?
Because she will understand me. And know that I understand her. If you keep back one word of it from her, if you are not ready to lay the truth at her feet as I am, then you will know to the end of your days that she really belongs to me and not to you. Goodbye.
Stop. I will not tell her.
Either the truth or a lie. You must tell her. If I go.
Marchbanks, it is sometimes justifiable.
I know. To lie. It will be useless. Goodbye, Mr. Clergyman.
Oh! Are you going, Eugene? Well, dear, just look at you, going out into the street in that state. You are a poet, certainly. Look at him, James. Look at his collar. Oh my God. Look at his tie. Oh, look at his hair. One would think somebody had been throttling you. Here, stand still. Stand still. There. Oh, now you look so nice that I think you'd better stay to lunch after all, though I told you mustn't. It will be ready in half an hour. Oh. Oh, don't be silly.
I want to stay. Of course. Unless the Reverend gentleman, your husband, has anything to advance to the contrary.
Shall he stay, James, if he promises to be a good boy and to help me to lay the table?
Oh, yes, certainly. He had better.
Come.
Mm-hmm.
Come and lay the table. I am the happiest of men.
So was I, an hour ago.
The same day, the same room, late in the afternoon. The spare chair for visitor has been replaced at the table, which is, if possible, more untidy than before. Marchbanks, alone and idle, is trying to find out how the typewriter works. Hearing someone at the door, he steals guiltily away to the window and pretends to be absorbed in the view. Miss Garnett, carrying the notebook in which she takes down Morell's letters in shorthand from his dictation, sits down at the typewriter and sets to work transcribing them, much too busy to notice Eugene. Unfortunately, the first key she strikes sticks.
Bother! You've been meddling with my typewriter, Mr. Marchbanks, and there's not the least use in you. You're trying to look as if you hadn't.
Oh. I'm very sorry, Miss Garnett. I only tried to make it right.
You made this key stick.
I assure you, I didn't touch the keys. I didn't, indeed. I only turned the little wheel.
Oh, now I understand. I suppose you thought it was some sort of barrel organ. Nothing to do but turn the handle and it would write a beautiful love letter for you straight off, eh?
I suppose a machine could be made to write love letters. They're all the same, aren't they?
How do I know? Why do you ask me?
I beg your pardon? I thought clever people who can do business and write letters and that sort of thing, always had love affairs.
Mr. Marchbanks!
I hope I haven't offended you. Perhaps I shouldn't have alluded to your love affairs.
I haven't had any love affairs. How dare you say such a thing?
Really? Oh, then you are shy, like me. Isn't that so?
Certainly I am not. Shy? What do you mean?
You must be. That is the reason there are so few love affairs in the world. We all go about longing for love. It is the first need of our natures, the loudest cry of our hearts. But we dare not utter our longing. We are too shy. Oh, Miss Garnett, what would you not give to be without fear? Without shame?
Oh, well, upon my word.
Don't say those stupid things to me. They don't deceive me. What you saw, why are you afraid to be your real self with me? I am just like you.
Like me? Pray, are you flattering me or flattering yourself? I'm not quite sure which.
Hush. Hush, I go about in search of love. And I find it in unmeasured stores in the bosoms of others. But when I try to ask for it, this horrible shyness strangles me, and I stand dumb, or worse than dumb, saying meaningless things, foolish lies. And I see the affection I am longing for given to dogs and cats and pet birds, because they come and ask for it. It must be asked for. It is like a ghost. It cannot speak unless it is first spoken to. All the love in the world is longing to speak. Only it dare not. Because it is shy. Shy. That is the world's tragedy.
Wicked people get over that shyness occasionally, don't they?
Wicked people means people who have no love. Therefore, they have no shame. They have the power to ask love because they don't need it. They have the power to offer it because they have none to give. But we, who have love and long to mingle it with the love of others, we cannot utter a word. You find that, don't you?
Look here, if you really don't stop talking like this, I'll leave the room, Mr. Marchbanks. I really will. It's not proper.
Nothing that's worth saying is proper. I can't understand you, Miss Garnett. What am I to talk about?
Talk about indifferent things. Talk about the weather.
Would you stand and talk about indifferent things if a child were by, crying bitterly with hunger?
I suppose not.
Well, I can't talk about indifferent things with my heart crying out bitterly in its hunger.
Well, then hold your tongue.
Yes, that is what it always comes to. We hold our tongues. Does that stop the cry of your heart? For it does cry, doesn't it? It must, if you have a heart.
Oh, it's no use trying to work when you talk like that. It's no business of yours whether my heart cries out or not. But I have a mind to tell you, for all that.
You needn't. I know already that it must.
But mind, if you ever say so, I'll deny it.
Yes, I know. And so you haven't the courage to tell him?
Him? Who?
Whoever he is.
Oh.
Whoever he is. The man you love. Love, it might be anybody. The curate. Mr. Mill, perhaps.
Mr. Mill? A fine man to break my heart about, indeed. I'd rather have you than Mr. Mill.
No, really, I'm very sorry, but you mustn't think of that.
Don't be frightened. It's not you. It's not anyone in particular. Not one particular person at all.
I know. You feel that you could love anybody that offered.
Anybody that offered? No, I do not. But what do you take me for?
No use. You won't make me real answers. Only those things that everybody says.
Oh, well, if you want an original conversation, you'd better go and talk to yourself.
That is what all poets do. They talk to themselves out loud, and the world overhears them. But it's horribly lonely not to hear someone else talk sometimes.
Wait until Mr. Morell comes. He'll talk to you. You needn't make wry faces over him. He can talk better than you. He'd talk your little head off.
I understand now.
What do you understand?
Your secret. Tell me, is it really and truly possible for a woman to love him?
Well!
No, answer me. I want to know. I must know. I can't understand it. I can see nothing in him but words, pious resolutions, what people call goodness. You can't love that.
I simply don't know what you're talking about. I don't understand you.
You do. You lie.
Oh,
You do understand, and you know. Is it possible for a woman to love him.
Yes. What is the matter with you? Huh?
Well,
Great heavens! Here's somebody. Stop.
well, so this is the way they leave you to yourself, Mr. Marchbanks. I've come to keep you company. James is receiving a deputation in the dining room, and Candy is upstairs educating a young Stitcher girl she's interested in. She's sitting there learning her to read out of Evelyn Twins. You must find it lonesome here with no one but the typist to talk to.
He'll be all right now that he has the advantage of your polished conversation. That's one comfort, anyhow.
I was not addressing myself to you, young woman, and I'm aware of it.
Did you ever see worse manners, Mr. Marchbanks, have you?
Mr. Marchbanks is a gentleman and knows his place, which is more than some people do.
It's well that you and I are not ladies and gentlemen. I'd talk to you pretty straight if Mr. Marchbanks wasn't here. Now there. I've spoiled this letter. Have to be done all over again. Oh, I can't contain my silly self. Just myself. I'm a silly old fathead. I'm so...
Oh? I'm a silly old fathead, am I? Oh, indeed. All right, my girl, all right. You just wait till I tell that to your employer. You'll see. I'll teach you. See if I don't. No, you've done it now. No use to talking to me. I'll let you know who I am. Don't you take no notice of her, Mr. Marchbanks. She's beneath it.
Hadn't we better change the subject? I don't think Miss Garnett meant anything.
I didn't, though.
I wouldn't demean myself to take notice on her.
That is for me.
Oh, we can spare you. Now we're alone, Mr. Marchbanks. Let me give you a friendly hint that I wouldn't give to everybody. How long have you known my son-in-law, James, here?
I don't know. I never can remember dates. A few months, perhaps.
Ever notice anything queer about him?
I don't think so.
No more than you wouldn't. That's the danger in it. Well, he's mad.
Mad?
Mad as a March hare. You take notice on him and you'll see.
But surely that is only because his opinions are...
Well, that's what I used to think, Mr. Marchbanks. I thought long enough that it was only his opinions. Though, mind you, opinions become very serious things when people takes to acting on them as he does. And that's not what I go on. What do you think he says to me this morning in this very room?
What?
He says to me, this is as sure as we're sitting here. He says, I'm a fool, he says, and you're a scoundrel. As cool as possible. Me a scoundrel, mind you, and then shook hands with me on it, as if it was to my credit. Do you mean to tell me that that man's sane?
Get all their names and addresses, Miss Garnett.
Here he is. Just you keep your eye on him, and see. Oh, I'm sorry, James, to have to make a complaint to you. I don't want to do it, but I feel I oughter, as a matter of right and duty.
What's the matter?
Mr. Marchbanks will bear me out. He was a witness. Your young woman so far forgot herself as to call me a silly old fathead.
Oh, now isn't that exactly like Prosy? She's so frank, she can't contain herself. Poor Prosy.
And do you expect me to put on with it from the like of her?
Oh, nonsense. I mean, you can take any notice of it. Just never mind.
Oh, I don't mind. I'm above it. But is it right? That's what I want to know. Is it right?
That's a question for the church, not for the laity. Has it done any harm? That's the question for you, eh? Of course it hasn't. I mean, think no more of it.
What did I tell you? Mad as an adder. When's dinner, James?
Not for half an hour yet.
Give me a nice book to read over the fire, will you, James? There's a good chap.
What sort of book? A good one?
No, something pleasant, just to pass the time. Oh, thank you, James.
Candida will come to entertain you presently. She just got rid of her pupil. She is filling the lamps.
But that will soil her hands. I can't bear that, Morell. It's a shame. I'll go and fill them.
You'd better not. I mean, she'd only set you to clean my boots, to save me the trouble of doing it myself in the morning.
Well, don't you keep a servant now, James?
Yes, but she isn't a slave, and the house looks as if it's kept 3. That means that everyone has to lend a hand. I mean, it's not a bad plan. Prosy and I can talk business after breakfast whilst we're washing up. Washing up's no trouble when there are 2 people to do it.
Do you think every woman is as coarse-grained as Miss Garnett?
Oh, that's quite right, Mr. Marchbanks. That's quite right. She is coarse-grained.
Marchbanks.
Yes?
How many servants does your father keep?
Oh, I don't know.
So many that you don't know. Anyhow, when there's anything coarse-grained to be done, you ring the bell and throw it on to somebody else, eh? That's one of the great facts of your existence, isn't it?
Oh, don't torture me. The one great fact now is that your wife's beautiful fingers are dabbling in paraffin oil, and that you are sitting here, comfortably preaching about it. Everlasting preaching, preaching, words, words, words.
Ha! Devil the better. Had you there, James. Straight.
Candida comes up with a reading.
If you stay with us, Eugene, please. I think I will hand over the lamps to you.
I will stay on condition that you hand over all the rough work to me.
That's very gallant, but I think I should like to see how you do it first. James, you've not been looking after the house properly.
Well, I have done or not. What have I done or not done, my love?
Well, my own particular pet scrubbing brush has been used for blackleading. What's the matter? Are you ill, Eugene?
No, not. No, not ill. Only horror. Horror.
What?
Horror.
Got the horrors, Mr. Marchbanks? Oh, that's bad. At your age, you must leave it off gradually.
Nonsense, Papa. It's only poetic horror, isn't it, Eugene?
Oh, poetic horror, is it? I beg your pardon, I'm sure.
What is it, Eugene? The scrubbing brush? Well, there. Never mind. Wouldn't you like to present me with a nice new one with an ivory back inlaid with mother of pearl?
No, not a scrubbing brush, but a boat. A tiny shallop to sail away in, far from the world, where the marble floors are washed by the rain and dried by the sun, where the south wind dusts the beautiful green and purple carpets, or a chariot to carry us up into the sky, where the lamps are stars and don't need to be filled with paraffin oil every day.
Where there's nothing to do but to be idle, selfish, and useless.
Oh, James, how could you spoil it all?
Yes. To be idle, selfish, and useless. That is to be beautiful and free and happy. Hasn't every man desired that with all his soul for the woman he loves? That's my ideal. What's yours? And that of all the dreadful people who live in these hideous rows of houses. Sermons and scrubbing brushes. With you to preach the sermon and your wife to scrub.
He cleans the boots, Eugene. You will have to clean them tomorrow for saying that about him.
Oh, don't talk about boots. Your feet should be beautiful on the mountains.
My feet would not be beautiful on the Hackney Road without boots.
Oh, come, Candy, don't be vulgar. Mr. Marchbanks ain't accustomed to it. You're giving him the horror again. I mean the poetic ones.
Reply paid. The boy's waiting. Maria is ready for you now in the kitchen, Mrs. Morell. The onions have come.
Onions?
Yes, onions, not even Spanish ones, nasty little red onions. You shall help me to slice them? Come along.
Oh, Candy didn't ought to handle the Piers Nevy like that. It's gone too far with it. Looky here, James. Do he often get taken queer like that?
I don't know.
He talks very pretty, and Alice had a turn for a bit of poetry. Candy takes after me that way. Used to make me tell her fairy stories when she was only a little kid. Not that high.
Indeed.
Used you to make the fairy tale stories up out of your own head, I should have never supposed you had it in you, by the way. It's better warn you, since you've taken such a fancy to Mr. Marchbanks. He's mad.
Mad? What? I'm too.
Mad as a March hatter. My hair. Ah, he did frighten me, okay? I can tell you just before you came in that time. Haven't you noticed the queer things he says?
So that's what the poetic auras means. Blame me if it didn't come into my head once or twice that he must be off his chump. Well, this is a pretty sort of asylum for a man to be in, with no one but you to take care of him.
Yes, what a dreadful thing it would be if anything happened to you.
Don't you address no remarks to me. Tell your employer that I've gone into the garden for a smoke.
Oh,
Going for a turn in the garden to smoke, James.
Oh, all right. All right. Well, Miss Prosy, why have you been calling my father-in-law names?
I...
Oh, come. Never mind, Pros. He is a silly old fathead, isn't he?
Oh, wow.
Well, where's Eugene?
Uh, washing his hands in the scullery and under the tap. He will make an excellent cook if he can only get over his dread of Maria.
No doubt.
Come here, dear. Let me look at you. Turn your face to the light. My boy is not looking well. Has he been overworking?
Nothing more than usual.
He looks very pale and grey and wrinkled and old. Here. Leave Prosy to finish it and come talk to me.
But,
Yes, I must be talked to sometimes. Now, you're beginning to look better already. Why don't you give up all this tiresome overworking, going out every night, lecturing and talking? Of course, what you say is all very true and very right, but it does no good. They don't mind what you say to them one little bit. Of course, they agree with you. But what's the use of people agreeing with you if they go and do just the opposite of what you tell them the moment your back is turned? Look at our congregation at St. Dominic's. Why do they come to hear you talking about Christianity every Sunday? Why, just because they've been so full of business and money-making for 6 days that they want to forget all about it and have a rest on the 7th so that they can go back fresh and make money harder than ever. You positively help them at it instead of hindering them.
you know very well, Canada, that I often blow them up soundly for that. But if there's nothing in this church going but the rest and diversion, why don't we try something more amusing, more self-indulgent? I mean, there must be some good in the fact that they prefer St. Dominic's to worse places on Sundays.
Oh, the worst places aren't open, and even if they were, they daren't be seen going into them. Besides, James, dear, you preach so splendidly that it's as good as a play for them. Why do you think the women are so enthusiastic?
Candida.
Oh, I know! You silly boy. You think it's your socialism and your religion. But if it was that, they'd do what you tell them instead of only coming to look at you. They all have Prosy's complaint.
Prosy's complaint? What do you mean, Candida?
Yes, Prosy, and all the other secretaries you ever had. Why does Prosy condescend to wash up the things and to peel potatoes and abase herself in all manner of ways for 6 shillings a week less than she used to get in a city office? She's in love with you, James. That's the reason. They're all in love with you, and you are in love with preaching because you do it so beautifully. And you think it's all enthusiasm for the kingdom of heaven on earth, and so do they. You dear silly.
Candida, what dreadful, what soul-destroying cynicism. Are you jesting? Or can it be? Are you jealous?
Yes, I feel a little jealous sometimes.
What? Of Prospect?
No, 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 no. Not jealous of anybody. Jealous for somebody else who is not loved as he ought to be.
Me?
You. Why, you're spoiled with love and worship. You get far more than is good for you. No, I mean Eugene.
Eugene.
It seems unfair that all the love should go to you and none to him, although he needs it so much more than you do. Oh, what's the matter? Am I worrying you?
Not at all. But you know that I have perfect confidence in you, Canada.
Oh, you vain thing. Are you so sure of your irresistible attractions?
Canada. You're shocking me. I mean, I never thought of my attractions. I thought of your goodness, your purity. That's what I confide in.
What a nasty, uncomfortable thing to say to me. Oh, you are a clergyman, James. A thorough clergyman.
So Eugene says.
Oh, Eugene's always right. He's a wonderful boy. I have grown fonder and fonder of him all the time I was away. Do you know, James, that though he has not the least suspicion of it himself, he is ready to fall madly in love with me.
Oh, he has no suspicion of it himself, hasn't he?
Not a bit. Someday he will know when he is grown up and experienced like you, and he will know that I must have known. I wonder what you'll think of me then.
No evil, Canada. I hope and trust. No evil.
That will depend.
Depend?
Yes, it will depend on what happens to him. Don't you see? It will depend on how he comes to learn what love really is. I mean, on the sort of woman who will teach it to him.
Yes. No. Uh, I don't know what you mean.
If he learns it from a good woman, then it will be all right. He will forgive me.
Forgive.
But suppose he learns it from a bad woman. Oh, as so many men do, especially poetic men, who imagine all women are angels. Well, suppose he only discovers the value of love when he has thrown it away and degraded himself in his ignorance. Will he forgive me then, do you think?
Forgive you for what?
Don't you understand? I mean, will he forgive me for not teaching him myself? For abandoning him to the bad women for the sake of my goodness, my purity, as you call it? Oh, James, how little you understand me, to talk of your confidence in my goodness and purity. I would give them both to poor Eugene as willingly as I would give my shawl to a beggar dying of cold if there were nothing else to restrain me. Put your trust in my love for you, James. For if that went, I should care very little for your sermons, mere phrases that you cheat yourself and others with every day.
His words.
Ah, whose words?
Eugene's?
He's always right. He understands you. He understands me. He understands Prossy and you, James, you understand nothing. Mwah.
How can you bear to do that when... Oh, Canada. I had rather you had plunged a grappling iron into my heart than giving me that kiss.
My dear, what's the matter?
Don't touch me.
James, please, let me just...
Is anything the matter?
Nothing but this. That either you were right this morning or Canada is mad.
Oh, don't say such things. James, mad me? Of course not.
Oh, come.
Well, you're only shocked. Is that all?
Oh, come.
Unconventional.
Behaving yourself,
Unconventional
Ken.
people are.
Behaving yourself, Candy. What'll Mr. Marchbanks think of you?
This comes of James teaching me to think for myself and never to hold back out of fear of what other people may think of me. It works beautifully as long as I think the same things as he does, but now, because I have just thought something different. Look at him! Just look!
Well, James, you certainly ain't impressive looking as usual.
I suppose not. I beg all your pardons. I was not conscious of making a fuss. Well.
Well, Eugene, why are you so sad? Did the onions make you cry?
It is your cruelty.
Oh.
Hate cruelty. It is a horrible thing to see one person make another suffer.
Poor boy, have I been cruel? Did I make it slice nasty little red onions?
Oh, stop. Stop. I don't mean myself. You have made him suffer frightfully. I feel his pain in my own heart. I know that is not your fault. It is something that must happen. But don't make light of it. I shudder when you torture him and laugh.
I torture James. Nonsense, Eugene. How you exaggerate, silly. Don't work anymore, dear. Come and talk to us.
No. I can't talk. I can only preach.
Well, come and preach.
Oh, no, Candy. Ain't it all?
Oh,
You do, Mrs. Morell. So glad to see you back again.
thank you, Lexy. You know Eugene, don't you?
Oh, yes. How do you do, Mr. Marchbanks?
Quite well, thanks.
I've just come from the Guild of St. Matthew. They are in the greatest consternation about your telegram. There is nothing wrong, is there?
What did you telegraph about, James? Lexy. I think. Oh, did he say he was to have spoken for them tonight? Well, giving up an engagement to speak.
First time in his life, I'll bet. Ain't it, Candy?
Yes.
They decided to send an urgent telegram to you asking whether you could not change your mind. Have you received it?
Yes, I got it.
It was reply paid.
Yes, I know. I answered it. I can't go.
But why, James?
Because I don't choose. These people forget that I am a man. They think I am a talking machine to be turned on for their pleasure every evening of my life. May I not have one night at home with my wife and my friends?
Oh, James, you know you'll have an attack of bad conscience tomorrow, and I shall have to suffer for that.
I know, of course, that they make the most unreasonable demands on you, but they have been telegraphing all over the place for another speaker, and they can get nobody but the president of the Agnostic League.
Well, an excellent man. What better do they want?
He always insists so powerfully on the divorce of socialism from Christianity. We'll undo all the good we've been doing. Of course, you know best, but
Oh, do go, James. We'll all go.
Look here, Candy. I say, let's stay at home by the fire, comfortable. He won't need to be more than a couple of hours away.
You'll be just as comfortable at the meeting. We'll all sit on the platform and be great people.
Oh, please don't let us go on the platform. No. Platform? No, everyone will stare at us. I couldn't. I'll sit at the back of the room.
Don't be afraid. They'll be too busy looking at James to notice you.
Crossy's complaint, Canada, eh?
Yes.
Prossy's complaint? What are you talking about, James?
Miss Garnett.
Yes. Yes, Mr. Morell coming.
Well, listen here, Mr. Mill. What's Prossy's complaint? What's wrong with her?
Well, I don't exactly know, but she spoke very strangely. I'm afraid she's a little out of her mind sometimes.
Why, it must be catching. Four in the same house.
What is it, Mr. Morell?
Telegraph to the Guild of St. Matthew that I'm coming.
Don't they expect you?
Do as I tell you. Burgess, you don't want to come?
Oh, don't put it like that, James. It's only that it ain't Sunday, you know.
I'm sorry. I thought you might like to be introduced to the chairman. I mean, he works on the Works Committee of the County Council and has some influence in the matter of contracts. Will you come?
Of course I'll come, James. Ain't it always a pleasure to hear you?
I shall want you to take some notes at the meeting. Miss Garnett, if you have no other engagement, you are coming, Lexy, I suppose?
Oh, he certainly is. We are all coming, James.
No, you are not coming.
Oh.
And Eugene is not coming.
Oh.
You will stay here and entertain him.
Oh.
To celebrate your return home.
But, James, I
insist. You do not want to come, and he does not want you to come.
Well, it's
not that... don't concern yourselves. I shall have plenty of people without you. Your chairs will be wanted by unconverted people who have never heard me before.
Eugene, wouldn't you like to come?
I should be afraid to let myself go before Eugene. I'm so critical of the sermons. He knows I am afraid of him. He told me as much this morning. Well, I shall show him how much afraid I am by leaving him here in your custody, Canada.
That's brave. That's beautiful.
But is anything the matter, James? I cannot understand why you wouldn't want me to...
I thought it was I who couldn't understand, dear.
Late in the evening, past 10, the curtains are drawn and the lamps lighted. The typewriter is in its case. The large table has been cleared and tidied. Everything indicates that the day's work is done. Candida and Marchbanks are seated at the fire. The reading lamp is on the mantel shelf above Marchbanks, who is sitting on the small chair, reading aloud from a manuscript. A little pile of manuscripts and a couple of volumes of poetry are on the carpet beside him. Candida is in the easy chair with the poker, a light brass one upright in her hand. She is leaning back and looking at the point of it curiously, with her feet stretched towards the blaze and her heels resting on the fender, profoundly unconscious of her appearance and surroundings.
Every poet that ever lived has put that thought into a sonnet. He must. He can't help it. Haven't you been listening?
Mm?
Mrs. Morell?
Eh? Oh.
Haven't you been listening?
Oh, yes! It's very nice. Go on, Eugene. I'm longing to hear what happens to the angel.
I beg your pardon for boring you.
But you are not boring me, I assure you. Please, go on. Do, Eugene.
I finished the poem about the angel 1/4 ago. I read you several things since.
I'm so sorry, Eugene. I think the poker must have fascinated me.
It made me horribly uneasy.
Why didn't you tell me? I'd have put it down at once.
I was afraid of making you uneasy too. It looked as if it were a weapon.
Oh.
If I were a hero of old, I should have laid my drawn sword between us. If Morell had come in, he would have thought you had taken up the polka, because there was no sword between us.
What? I can't quite follow that. Those sonnets of yours have perfectly addled me. Why should there be a sword between us?
Oh, never mind.
Oh, put that down again, Eugene. There are limits to my appetite for poetry, even your poetry. You've been reading to me for more than 2 hours. Ever since James went out, I want to talk. I want to talk.
No, I mustn't talk. I think I'll go out and take a walk in the park.
Nonsense. It's shut long ago. Come and sit down on the hearth rug and talk moonshine as you usually do. I want to be amused. Don't you want to?
Yes.
Then come along.
Oh, I've been so miserable all the evening because I was doing right. Now I'm doing wrong. And I'm happy.
Yes, I'm sure you feel a great grown-up wicked deceiver. Quite proud of yourself, aren't you?
Take care. Yeah, I'm ever so much older than you. If you only knew. May I say some wicked things to you?
No, but you may say anything you really and truly feel. Anything at all, no matter what it is. I am not afraid, so long as it is your real self that speaks, and not a mere attitude, a gallant attitude or a wicked attitude or even a poetic attitude. I put you on your honor and truth. Now say whatever you want to.
Oh, now I can't say anything. All the words I know belong to some attitude or other, all except one.
What one is that?
Candida, 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 Candida. I must say that now, because you have put me on my honor and truth.
Hmm.
And I never think or feel Mrs. Morell. It is always Candida.
Of
Candida.
course. And what have you to say to Candida?
Nothing but to repeat your name 1,000 times. Don't you feel that every time is a prayer to you?
Doesn't make you happy to be able to pray?
Yes, very happy.
Well, that happiness is the answer to your prayer. Do you want anything more?
No, I have come into heaven, where want is unknown.
Hmm.
I hope I didn't disturb you.
Oh! Ah, oh, James, you startled me. I was so taken up with Eugene that I didn't hear your latchkey. How did the meeting go off? Did you speak well?
I have never spoken better in my life.
That was first rate. How much was the collection?
I forgot to ask.
He must have spoken splendidly, or he would never have forgotten that. Where are all the others?
But they left long before I could get away.
Mm.
I thought I should never escape. I believe they are having supper somewhere.
Oh, in that case, Maria may go to bed. I'll tell her.
Well,
Well,
have you anything to tell me?
only that I have been making a fool of myself here in private, whilst you have been making a fool of yourself in public.
Hardly in the same way, I think.
The very, very, very same way. I have been playing the good man, just like you. When you began your heroics about leaving me here with Candida.
Candida?
Oh yes, I've got that far. Heroics are infectious. I caught the disease from you. I swore not to say a word in your absence that I would not have said a month ago in your presence.
Did you keep your oath?
I was ass enough to keep it until about 10 minutes ago. Up to that moment, I went on desperately reading to her, reading my own poems, anybody's poems, to stave off a conversation. I was standing outside the gate of heaven and refusing to go in. Oh, you can't think how heroic it was, and how uncomfortable. Then she couldn't bear being read to any longer.
And you approached the gate of heaven at last?
Yes.
Well, speak, man. Have you no feeling for me?
Then she became an angel, and there was a flaming sword that turned every way, so that I couldn't go in. For I saw that gate was really the gate of hell.
She repulsed you.
No, you fool. If she had done that, I should never have seen that I was in heaven already. Repulsed me. You think that would have saved me? Virtuous indignation. You are not worthy to live in the same world with her.
Do you think you make yourself more worthy by reviling me, Eugene?
Here endeth the 1,001st lesson, Morell. Morell, I don't think much of your preaching after all. I believe I could do it better myself. The man I want to meet is the man that Candida married.
The man that... Do you mean me?
I don't mean the Reverend James Mavor Morell, moralist and windbag. I mean the real man that the Reverend James must have hidden somewhere inside his black coat. The man that Candida loved. You can't make a woman like Candida love you by merely buttoning your collar, your collar at the back instead of in front.
When Canada promised to marry me, I was the same moralist and windbag that you now see. I wore my black coat and my collar buttoned behind instead of in front. Do you think she would have loved me any better for being insincere in my profession?
Oh, she forgave you, just as she forgives me for being a coward and a weakling, and what you call a sniveling little whelp and all the rest of it. A woman like that has divine insight. She loves our souls, and not our follies and vanities and illusions, or our collars and coats, or any other of the rags and tatters we are rolled up in. What I want to know is how you got past the flaming sword that stopped me.
Perhaps because I was not interrupted at the end of 10 minutes.
What?
Man can climb to the highest summits, but he cannot dwell there long.
It's false. There can he dwell forever, and there only. It's in the other moment that he can find no rest, no sense of the silent glory of life. Where would you have me spend my moments, if not on the summits?
In the scullery, slicing onions and filling lamps.
Or in the pulpit, scrubbing cheap earthenware souls.
Yes, that too. It was there that I earned my golden moment and the right in that moment to ask her to love me. I did not take the moment on credit, nor did I use it to steal another man's happiness.
I have no doubt you conducted the transaction as honestly as if you were buying a pound of cheese. I could only go to her as a beggar.
A beggar dying of cold, asking her for a shawl.
Thank you for touching up my poetry. Yes, if you like, a beggar dying of cold, asking for her shawl.
And she refused. Shall I tell you why she refused? I can tell you on her own authority. It was because of...
She didn't refuse.
Not.
She offered me all I chose to ask her. Her shawl, her wings, the wreath of stars on her head, the lilies in her hand, the crescent moon beneath her feet.
Out with the truth, man. My wife is my wife. I want no more of your poetic fripperies. I know well that I have lost her love and you have gained it. No law will bind her.
Catch me by the shirt collar, Morell. She will arrange it for me afterward, as she did this morning. I shall feel her hands touch me.
You young imp. Do you know how dangerous it is to say that to me? Or has something made you brave?
I'm not afraid now. I disliked you before. That was why I shrank from your touch. But I saw today, when she tortured you, that you love her. Since then, I have been your friend. You may strangle me if you like.
Eugene, that is not a heartless lie. If you have a spark of human feeling left in you, you would tell me what happened during my absence.
What happened? Why, the flaming sword. Well, in plain prose, I loved her so exquisitely that I wanted nothing more than the happiness of being in such love. And before I had time to come down from the highest summit, you came in.
So, it is still unsettled. Still the misery of doubt.
Misery? I am the happiest of men. I desire nothing now but her happiness. Oh, Morell, let us both give her up. Why should she have to choose between a wretched little nervous disease like me and a pig-headed parson like you? Let us go on a pilgrimage, you to the east and I to the west, in search of a worthy lover for her. Some beautiful archangel with purple wings.
Some fiddlestick. Oh, if she's mad enough to leave me for you, who will protect her? Who will help her? Who will work for her? Who will be a father to her children?
She does not ask those silly questions. It is she who wants somebody to protect, to help, to work for. Somebody to give her children to protect, to help, and to work for. Some grown-up man who has become as a little child again. Oh, you fool. You fool. You triple fool. I am the man, Morell. I am the man. You don't understand what a woman is. Send for her, Morell. Send for her, and let her choose between...
What on earth are you at, Eugene? You have been
James
annoying
and I
him.
are...
Yes?
James and I are having a preaching match, and he's getting the worst of it.
Huh. You've been annoying him. Now I won't have it, Eugene. Do you hear? My boy shall not be worried. I will protect him.
Protect?
What have you been saying, Eugene?
Nothing.
Nothing. Eugene.
I mean, I'm very sorry. I won't do it again. Indeed, I won't.
Let me alone.
I'll let him alone.
Let me alone.
No. Let me deal with him, James.
Oh, you're not angry with me, are you?
Yes, I am. Very angry. I've a great mind to pack you out of the house.
Gently, Candida, gently. I'm able to take care of myself.
Yes, dear, of course you are, but you mustn't be annoyed and made miserable.
I'll go.
Oh, you needn't go. I can't turn you out at this time of night. Shame on you, for shame!
But what have I done?
I know what you have done as well as if I had been there the whole time. Oh, it was unworthy. You are like a child, you cannot hold your tongue.
I would die. I would die 10 times over sooner than give you a moment's pain.
Much good your dying would do me. Come on.
Candida, dear, this altercation is hardly quite seemly. It is a matter between two men, and I'm the right person to settle it.
2 men. Do you call that a man? You bad boy.
If I am to be scolded like this, I must make a boy's excuse. He began it, and he's bigger than I am.
That can't be true. You didn't begin it, James, did you?
No,
Oh.
you began it this morning. But your other point is true. I am certainly bigger of the two, and I hope the stronger, Candida. So you had better leave the matter in my hands.
Yes, dear. But I don't understand about this morning.
You don't need to understand, my dear.
But James, oh, bother. Here they all come.
Oh, Morell. Isn't it dreadful? She's angry with us. She hates me. What shall I do?
Eugene, now, my head is spinning round. I shall begin to laugh presently.
But no. She'll think I've thrown you into hysterics. Don't laugh.
Morell! I must congratulate you. What a noble, splendid, inspired address you gave us. You surpassed yourself.
So you did, James. It fair kept me awake to the last word. Didn't it, Miss Garnett?
I wasn't minding you. I was trying to make notes.
Did I go too fast, Pros?
Oh, much too fast. You know I can't do more than 100 words a minute.
Well, never mind. Have you all had supper?
Mr. Burgess has been kind enough to give us a really splendid supper at the Belgrave.
Oh, don't mention it, Mr. Mill. You're hearty welcome to my little treat.
We had champagne. I never tasted it before. I feel quite giddy.
A champagne supper? That was very handsome. Was it my eloquence that produced all this extravagance?
Your eloquence and Mr. Burgess's goodness of heart. And what a very fine fellow the chairman is, Morell. He came to supper with us.
Oh, the chairman. Now I understand.
Mm-hmm. Who will have some lemonade? You know our rules. Total abstinence.
No use, dear. They've all had champagne. Pros has broken her pledge.
You don't mean to say you've been drinking champagne,
Ida,
Bros?
I can't hear you.
Yes, I do. I'm only a beer teetotaler, not a champagne teetotaler. I don't like beer. Are there any letters for me to answer, Mrs. Morell? Or Mr. Morell, whichever.
No more tonight.
Ah, very well. Good night, everybody.
Oh, Oh, I just heard Mr. Lexy say that he had better see you home, Miss
Oh,
Garnett.
Mr. Lexy, no. No, thank you. I shan't trust myself with anybody tonight. I wish I hadn't taken any of that stuff.
Stuff indeed. That girl to know what champagne is. Pommery and Greeno at 12 and 6 a bottle. She took 2 glasses almost straight off.
Um, Go and look after her, Lexy.
But if she should really be, suppose she began to sing in the street or anything of that sort.
Just so she may. That's why you better see her home safely.
Do, Lexy, there's a good fellow.
It is evidently my duty to go. I hope it may not be necessary. Good night, Mrs. Morell.
Good night.
Good night.
He was gushing with extra piety himself after 2 sips. People can't drink like they used to. Well, James, it's time to lock up. Mr. Marchbanks, shall I have the pleasure of your company for a bit of the way home?
Yes, I'd better go.
You sit down. You're not going yet.
No, I didn't mean to.
Mr. Marchbanks will stay the night with us, Papa.
Oh, well, I'll say good night. So long, James. Make 'em give you a nightlight by your bed, Mr. Marchbanks. It'll comfort you if you wake up in the night with a touch of that complaint of yours. Good night.
Thank you. I will. Good night, Mr. Burgess.
Stay here, dear. I'll put on Papa's coat for him.
Morell, there's going to be a terrible scene. Aren't you afraid?
Not in the least.
I never envied you your courage before. Stand by me, won't you?
Each for himself, Eugene. She must choose between us now.
Eugene, are you sorry?
Yes. Heartbroken.
Well, then you're forgiven. Now go off to bed like a good little boy. I want to talk to James about you.
Oh, I can't do that. Morell, I must be here. I'll not go away. Tell her.
Tell me what?
I have nothing to tell her except that she is my greatest treasure on earth, if she is really mine.
I am sure Eugene can say no less, if that is all.
Morell, she's laughing at us.
There's nothing to laugh at. Are you laughing at us, Canada?
Eugene is very quick-witted, James. I hope I'm going to laugh, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be very angry.
Stop, Morell. Stop. Don't let us say anything.
I hope you don't mean that as a threat, Canada.
Take care, James. Eugene, I asked you to go. Are you going?
He shall not go. I wish him to remain.
Oh,
I'll go. I'll do whatever you want.
stop! Stop! Didn't you hear James say he wished you to stay? James is master here. Didn't you know that?
By what right is he master?
Tell him, James.
My dear, I don't know of any right that makes me master. I certainly no such right.
You don't know. Oh, James. James. Eugene. I wonder, do you understand? No, you're too young. Well, I give you leave to stay and learn. Now, James, what's the matter? Come, tell me.
Don't.
Come, out with it.
I meant to prepare your mind carefully, Canada, so as to prevent any misunderstanding.
Yes, dear, I'm sure you did, but never mind. I shan't misunderstand.
Well, uh, uh,
Well,
Eugene declares that you are in love with him.
No, 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 never, never. I did not, Mrs. Morell. It's not true. I said I loved you and that he didn't.
okay.
I said that I understood you and that he couldn't. And it was not after what passed there before the fire that I spoke. It was not, on my word. It was this morning.
This morning.
Yes.
Of course.
That was what was the matter with my collar.
His collar. Oh, James, did you?
You know, Canada, that I have a temper to struggle with. And he
Oh.
said that you despise me in your heart.
Did you say that, Eugene?
No!
Then James has just told me a falsehood. Is that what you mean?
No, it was David's wife. David's wife, and it wasn't at home. It was when she saw him dancing before all the people.
Dancing before all the people, Canada, and thinking he was moving their hearts by his mission when they were only suffering from Prosy's complaint. Don't try to look indignant, Canada.
Try.
Eugene was right. As you told me a few hours after, he's always right. He said nothing that you did not say far better yourself. I mean, he is the poet who sees everything, and I'm the poor parson who understands nothing.
Do you mind what is said by a foolish boy? Because I said something like it again in jest?
But that foolish boy can speak with the inspiration of a child and the cunning of a serpent. He has claimed that you belong to him and not to me, and rightly or wrongly, I have come to fear that it may be true. I mean, I would not go about tortured with doubts and suspicions. I would not live with you and keep a secret from you. I would not suffer the intolerable degradation of jealousy. I mean, we have agreed, he and I, that you shall choose between us now, and I await your decision.
Oh! Oh! I am to choose, am I? I suppose it is quite settled that I must belong to one or the other.
Quite. You must choose definitely.
Morell, you don't understand. She means that she belongs to herself.
I mean that and a good deal more, Master Eugene, as you will both find out presently. And pray, my lords and masters, what have you to offer for my choice? I am up for auction, it seems. What do you bid, James?
I can't.
James?
I mean, I can't speak.
Oh, dearest.
Stop! Stop! It's not fair.
There.
You mustn't show her that you suffer, Morell. I am on the rack too, but I am not crying.
Yes, you're right. It is not for pity that I am bidding.
I beg your pardon, James. I did not mean to touch you. I am waiting to hear your bid.
I have nothing to offer you but my strength for your defense, my honesty of purpose for your surety, my ability and industry for your livelihood, and my authority and position for your dignity. That is all it becomes a man to offer to a woman.
And you, Eugene, what do you offer?
My weakness, my desolation, my heart's need.
That's a good bid, Eugene. Now I know how to make my choice.
Candida.
Coward.
I give myself to the weaker of the two.
I accept your sentence, Candida.
Do you understand, Eugene?
Oh, I feel I'm lost. He cannot bear the burden.
Do you mean me, Candida?
Let us sit and talk comfortably over it like three friends. Sit down, dear James. Bring me that chair, Eugene. That one. Thank you. You remember what you told me about yourself, Eugene. How nobody has cared for you since your old nurse died. How those clever, fashionable sisters and successful brothers of yours were your mother's and father's pets. How miserable you were at Eton. How your father is trying to starve you into returning to Oxford. How you have had to live without comfort or welcome or refuge. Always lonely and nearly always disliked and misunderstood. Poor boy.
I had my books. I had nature. And at last, I met you.
Never mind that just at present. Now, I want you to look at this other boy. My boy, spoiled from his cradle. We go once a fortnight to see his parents. You should come with us, Eugene, and see the pictures of the hero of that household. James as a baby, the most wonderful of all babies. James holding his fist and, and his first school prize won at the ripe age of 8. James as the captain of his 11. James in his first frock coat. James under all sorts of glorious circumstances. You know how strong he is. I hope he didn't hurt you. How clever he is. How happy. Ask James's mother and his 3 sisters what it cost to save James the trouble of doing anything but be strong and clever and happy. Ask me what it costs to be James's mother and 3 sisters and wife and mother to his children all in one. Ask Prosie and Maria how troublesome the house is, even when we have no visitors to help us to slice the onions. Ask the tradesmen who want to worry James and spoil his beautiful sermons, who it is that puts them off. When there is no money to give, he gives it. When there is no money to refuse, I refuse it. I build a castle of comfort and indulgence and love for him and stand sentinel, always to keep little vulgar cares out. I make him master here, though he does not know it, and could not tell you a moment ago how it came to be so. And when he thought I might go away with you, his only anxiety was what should become of me. And to tempt me to stay, he offered me his strength for my defense, his industry for my livelihood, his position for my dignity, Oh, I am mixing up your beautiful sentences and spoiling them, am I not, darling?
It's all true. every word. What I am, you have made me with the labor of your hands and the love of your heart. You are my wife, my mother, my sisters. You are the sum of all loving care to me.
Am I your mother and sisters to you, Eugene?
Never, never, never. Out then into the night with me.
You're not going like that, Eugene. Eugene!
I know the hour when it strikes. I am impatient to do what must be done.
Canada, don't let him do anything rash.
Oh, there is no fear. He has learned to live without happiness.
I no longer desire happiness. Life is nobler than that. Parson James, I give you my happiness with both hands. I love you because you have filled the heart of the woman I loved. Goodbye.
One last word. How old are you, Eugene?
As old as the world now. This morning I was 18.
18. Will you, for my sake, make a little poem out of the 2 sentences I'm going to say to you? And will you promise to repeat it to yourself whenever you think of me?
Say the sentences.
Mm-hmm. When I am 30, she will be 45. When I am 60, she will be 75.
In 100 years, we shall be the same age. But I have a better secret than that in my heart. Let me go now. The night outside grows impatient.
Goodbye! Goodbye. Oh, James. Miss Proserpine Garnett was played by Hayley Elisabeth. The Reverend James Mavor Morell was played by Melvin Smith. The Reverend Alexander Lexy Mill was played by Kealoha Petersen. Mr. Burgess was played by Paul Uhler. Candida was played by Jacqueline Elisabeth. And Eugene Marchbanks was played by Ollie. This was a Jaillot Théâtre production. Candida by George Bernard Shaw.